this is Liz. Welcome to my little urban homestead and welcome to Fabric Friday. This is the placemat that you saw me sewing, and I have cut a piece width of fabric that is 1.5 inches wide, because as I said, this is going to be single fold binding. Now choose somewhere to start. Lay on the back of your pot holder, just lay your fabric strip down right next to the edge, raw edges together, and stitch down there 1/4 inch. I could change my foot. This is my normal sewing foot, but I do have a 1/4 inch sewing foot with just one hole in it for the needle to go through. I have also got a tape on here that is 1/4 inch away from my needle, so if my work follows that, I know that I'll be alright. But we put the work, don't start right at the edge. In fact, I'm going to do it a slightly different way that might actually be easier. I'm going to fold it back on itself there, and then drop my needle just before where it starts, 1/4 inch away from the raw edges. Drop my needle there. I'll do a locking stitch, check the raw edges together. Oh, and I'm still on very large stitches. Let's bring that down a touch. And sew to the corner. You want to stop with your needle down about 1/4 inch away from the edge of your pot holder. Another stitch and that'll do it. And then with your needle down, this is the easiest way I've found. Needle down, press it, foot up, turn your work just slightly so you go off diagonally to the point. And let me zoom you in on that. You see, I'm now going to check my footers down and sew off the very point. Mark you out a touch. This binding that we've laid down straight, if we actually pull it up so there is a line, straight line, right the way down the edge of your pot holder. Can you see now? There to there. Hold it there in the corner. You can always, where have I put them now? That's why I have this pin wrist strap, because I keep forgetting where I put my pins. You can hold it once you've got it there. You can hold it just slightly by putting a pin in. and then take the fabric across, make sure it comes down to the edge and it's to the raw edge of your next one, and pin that again. I don't, because I've done this several times, so I don't pin. Make sure you take your pin that's underneath out, because you don't want to accidentally sew over it or anything like that. And then take your work and 1/4 of an inch from your top and the side, you can feel where this piece of fabric goes in at the corner. And that exactly is where you want to start. So there it is. Hold your thread tails. If you've got the facility to lock your stitches there. If you haven't, you can go forward a few and then back a few, and then do the same, so all the way down to 1/4 of an inch off the other end. Trying to do this so it won't block your view again, but take it down to 1/4 of an inch away from the edge, needle down, foot up, turn your work and put your foot back down and sew off the end. And we do that on all 4 corners. Your fabric strip binding is coming all the way down. We lift it up so it runs level with the bit that we haven't yet bound. Crease that, hold it down, put a pin in it to just hold it there. Get the binding, make sure it's level with the raw edge of the pot holder. Take a needle out of the previous one if you want. You pin out of the previous corner. And then go in and start 1/4 of an inch in from both sides. And go down to your next corner. What I'm going to do now is move the camera around so I've got another angle that you can see from. Quarter of an inch away from the edge, needle down, foot up, turn and go off diagonally. binding that you've stitched on is going along and the binding is straight. Take the binding up, hold it with a pen, bring the binding down, get that pen, stick it in there and hold your binding where you want it. And I'm a little bit skewy because of how I've got this positioned, so I'm not going to use a pen. So you can feel, you could possibly even see here, there's a bit of a groove where the underside fabric is, but you're after this flappy bit here. So you want to start there, 1/4 inch in from your top and the side. My foot's coming looser. You can get that from time to time, that your foot starts to come loose. Sorry about that, my SD card was just full. I've just had to put it onto my computer. So I'm just finishing this last corner off, 1/4 inch in. Now you can see where I started, I folded it in, making a nice neat edge. So now I can get my scissors. Where are they? I can actually cut this end of the binding at the same point, more or less. So you can see there's where the underside comes to, and there's the top one over it, and just sew all the way down. Looks like I'm going to have to change my bobbin before it runs out, which it will do in a second. But now we turn it over and you can see that, oh, let's get that pen out. It'll turn easier without pins in places they shouldn't be. So that's the bit, the last bit that we sewed, and that will go over. But because you've turned that over, it will give a nice finish. So I'll change my bobbin, move the camera, and then show you what I mean. Right, now I've got full bobbins, I'm alright. Clips are more useful, I feel, for holding the binding down, but you don't have to use them. You don't have to use them, you can pen, but you want to turn your fabric in half. Forget about that starting bit with the triangle on at the moment, and then fold it over itself so it goes over that line of stitching where you've stitched it to the back, and put a clip just there. Now if you do that on this edge, so it's folded over, give it a little crease, and over again so it covers those stitches. Now here in the corner, if you need to, get your scissors and just chop away that little extra bit. I'll take a little bit of bulk out of it for you. Make sure you fold it nice, and can you see, because you've done that line diagonally to the corner, you've got a lovely mitre on your back. That's what we want on the front. So turn it, the raw edge is at the top, so you now fold that in on itself, same as you did the sides. Give it a little finger crease, do it the same on this side, and it makes it a lot easier then. I get my seam ripper to do the next bit. Make sure it's turned in on itself and covers those stitches where you stitched the binding to the back. Take it all the way down to the corner. It looks a bit messy at the moment because you're pulling it down. Take your seam ripper, put it on the very edge, and that will hold it and tuck it in place for you. So now you can pull it up and slide your seam ripper out, put it on the top to hold it. Make sure those stitches are covered, hold it down, get a clip and slide it on, and that has created a nice mitered corner on the front side for you. Let me show you there again. With the scissors, cut the corner, not going through your binding. Turn it right side out, give it a slight pull, turn it in half, make sure it covers those stitches, and pin, or in my case clip. Along the bottom, well, the next bit, turn it over, clip. Now go back to the corner and fold it over at the corner. Get your seam ripper or any sharp, well, slim pointed thing, put it at the end of that line, and then fold it back on itself. It's not going quite right, and if it doesn't, that's not a problem. You just unfold it and look, and it's because I've got a bit too much bulk there. So snip it up, do it again, get it to the point that it's folded in half, and I've got ends coming through. Clip it and it'll be nice and smooth. Right, so that's your binding folded in half. If it doesn't seem to want to lay one way, then do it the other way. Fold it up completely. I get my pointy bit, pointy thin thing, and then pull it up, and you can see it's a nice straight line from the corner on the outside to the corner of the mat. There. And do that all the way around before you get started. Now, when you're here, where your little diagonal bit is, do the same as you've done before. Fold in half. And a couple of clips. Fold in half. Fold over those stitches. Clip. Make sure you fold it in half on the bottom as well as this pointed bit, and fold your top one over the bottom one. So we can take that clip off so you might see better. There's your bottom one, folded. Lay the one with the diagonal bit on it and fold that over the top of it, and then lay it down on those stitches. And not alright much. Then clip it. You might need to readjust it a few times before you get to your sewing machine or at the sewing machine. It doesn't matter. Readjusting it now means you don't have to unpick it at a later time. I don't know if you can see that that is now just a nice neat fold. So I'll stitch this all down, and I've got white thread in, so that might be able to see that better. So I normally start anywhere but not on a corner. Start part of the way, a good couple of inches away from it. Start anywhere but not a corner. Well, I might as well do it to show you how you do. Right, let's start there. Now get it as close as you can to the edge of your binding, because it's a nice edge. It's not a raw edge because you folded it over. Drop your needle. Back tack or lock your stitches up. And when you get to your first clip or pin, move it out the way. Hope you're making this out alright, because my hands may be in the way. Next clip. Keep making sure it's tucked under nice. Now, seam ripper in hand just in case we need it. We've come to a corner. So take the clip off, pin out carefully. If it's a pin, you can sew closer to it than the clips. But hold it down with the seam ripper or any pointed object you're using. and then sew up to it. And on that corner, and once your needle is down, then you can pivot to come back across on your next side. Now, as I've said before, I'm not a pinner. I rarely use clips, and as you can see, this side isn't clipped. Now I want to clip my corner. I'll do it before I get to it because it's more awkward once I've got to it. And while I've got my scissors in my hand, I'll clip the next corner. Tuck your corner, fold it in half, make sure it lays down over those stitches that you put in on the back to hold it on the back, and then close to your binding edge. Now on this side, I do tend to clip this one so it sort of holds it for me. Down, so about an inch or so away in the corner. This is if you're not pinning it all the time, which I don't. All the way down and off the end. Seam ripper there in the corner. Fold it over and it will meet two nice diagonals so it's mitered. Keep your your needle down, foot up, pivot, so I'll carry on. Oh, when we get to that, I'll turn it back on. Hopefully you can see this. I'm coming back towards where that diagonal point is. Got my clip holding them both down. I've got them folded one over the other. Hold it down. You can do it with your fingers or with your seam ripper or stiletto, and then sew. This is why I prefer to do it so I've got some space after, so I can turn them in nice on themselves. And now I'll do the last corner as soon as I'm coming to it. Your seam ripper is handy for poking things under, not just ripping seams. Mark off your stitches and it's done. So cut your threads. And give it a nice press out, but this, you see, that's our little diagonal where we started with it folded back on itself, and it gives a nice cover. You see there the mitered corner, the line that goes straight in to your imaginary middle of your placemat, and on the back, well, pot holder, on the back of it you've got exactly the same, and that's on all your corners. A nice mitered edge, and that's a single fold binding. So your pot holder is now ready. Thank you. Bye.